Like, I just got here and I could not be more excited what the next 10 years of my life look like. And I can't tell you I've ever looked forward to the next 10 years of my life the way that I do now. And let me tell you how awesome that feels to do that one time. So if you think getting into sales is people yelling at you on the phone and you can't hang up, guess what, man? Just hang up. There are tons of people who are going to call you and want to talk to you and want to give you their business.
All right, what's going on? Aaron here, back with another episode of the Remote Closing Academy podcast. And right off the bat, if you are someone that is currently in a job that you don't like that much and you're working for a boss that doesn't appreciate you in the way that you wish they would, then this episode is going to be for you, because that's the exact situation that the guests we're talking to in today, it's the exact situation that we were. They were putting their literally all heart and soul into their job, working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, not only to not get paid what they were worth, but also belittled on a daily basis. So we're going to just cover this guy's story, everything from him going there to ultimately being able to basically shove it in his boss's face and really take advantage of being a full-time remote setter, jumping into being a remote closer as well, and ultimately changing his life. So he's on the path to do some really amazing things in 2023 and really just through the rest of this year. So if you want to check this out, make sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode with Corbin. And so, dude, before we jump into it, how's the week so far? How you feeling?
Man, happy to be here. Thank you for that amazing introduction. It's happy Friday, man. I've had a bunch of great calls this week. Had a bunch of great call reviews from kind of my internal team. Just keep making progress, man. Every day getting better. Every day getting closer to what I want, man. It's awesome.
Love it, man. Yeah, I need to start doing these interviews on Friday, because I think the energy is just like so much better. Sometimes I usually do them on like Mondays, and it's like oh, it's Monday, but no, just kidding. I think I don't think I've talked to a single remote closer that like dreads Mondays, because that's when like other people are ready to like close on Monday. So it's always a good day. So, dude, before we go too deep into, because we have a lot of stuff to talk about. I think you've seen a good amount of success over a relatively short amount of time, and I want to dive into a lot of that. But even just before that, we were talking before we click record. Just let's dive into the story. What were you doing before remote closing? I know you went to school. Some stuff happened there. Tried some other sales stuff. So let's just take it back a little bit, and wherever you want to start, we can.
Oh, we're gonna go way back.
Yeah,
go way back. Okay, so man, I wanted to be a pharmacist. Like, my neighbor growing up was a pharmacist. I got to go to his house and like help babysit his kids growing up, and just kind of like. Dude, he made a lot of money. His house was super nice. So like, as a young kid, like 14, 15 years old, I was like, man, that'd be sweet. All right. And so I got accepted into school. And then I got an opportunity to be like a security technician from one of the mentors in like my college programs. Right. And so he's like, hey, I'll come take you in. I'll train you, and we'll get you caught up to speed. You'll move out with me for the summer, and I'll pay for college. Well, that would have been cool had they not given me the opportunity to be an operations manager after my first year. And so I kind of never really looked back. I felt a lot of success in the security industry because I love talking to people. So being able to be in someone else's house for an extended period of time, getting to hear like their stories, their viewpoints on life, getting to share a laugh. Sometimes they make you some food, right? So it was all awesome. Well, that turned into me traveling the country and getting relocated like every 3 to 6 months. And it's because I was put in a position to where it was my responsibility to train a lot of other technicians in the region on how to be a security technician.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of that was working in really close proximity to some of the best door-to-door sales managers in the country. And so just kind of being fully immersed in that, getting to help people by protecting their family, making sure their kids are safe, like that ultimately kind of sufficed that really good feeling that I wanted to have ultimately from being a pharmacist. So I kind of paid off my student loans, never really looked back. Well, then obviously the traditional cliche COVID. 40% company reductions in Canada and the US. Like, people weren't really cool with you being in their house at all. I was taking calls to fix people's crap like on their doorstep because they wouldn't let me in their house. And so there was no personability, there was zero direction, too much churn going on at corporate. No one knew answers to questions. And so I just kind of got out of it. I went into more of a commercial security entity. Well, dude, that's just someone handing you a fat paycheck to say, hey, protect my warehouse. Like, that kind of feels okay, but not in the way that I was looking for. And so over the last couple of years, man, like just being left alone in empty warehouses, running cable, installing cameras, whatever the case may be, right? Like, just lost all ability to communicate, it felt like. And that was really my passion. And I kind of, it took me to that point to realize that I love working with people. I used to love being in people's houses. I was never nervous. I was never afraid. Like, it was awesome. It's such a good feeling. And I wanted to be able to get back to that. And so what happened ultimately, man, over Christmas break last year, got super sick, couldn't go to girlfriend's parents' house for Christmas, and just basically sat and sulked at home. Cole Gordon's video came up, I don't know, 500 times on YouTube, right?
You probably watched it you probably watched like 12 seconds of it one time, and then YouTube's like, oh, this guy actually kind of likes this stuff. Let's give it to him like on every single platform.
Man. Absolutely. And I had no idea, right? It was just like, dude, I'm sick of working where I'm working. I'm working 50 hours a week installing security systems for people who don't give a crap about me, right? I was driving like an hour and a half, 2 hours each way. I was working on Saturdays. I get phone calls Sunday night, 8 o'clock, changing where I had to work Monday morning at 6 a.m. Like, impossible structure to deal with. And so what happened was I booked a call, talked to Jake Ferry, legend, by the way, hooked me up with John Hederich, another legend, by the way, and got me a loan approved. I had $200 to my name. I went and drove with freaking Instacart for 3 straight days, like 14 hours a day, to get the money to pay for my first month in RCA. Yesterday was 4 months to the day from me joining RCA. And I am now a director of enrollment at a Gexa, which is an e-learning startup studio.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah, man.
I wanna dive like a lot. Obviously, we're gonna talk a lot about that, but there's just some things that I wanted to pick apart a little bit on like the story. So how old are you, by the way?
Man, I'll be 32 next month.
Okay, 32. So what's I guess what's a timeline between everything? Because we talked a little bit about like, you're 15 years old and you're wanting to become a pharmacist because you see your neighbor. So like I guess how long did you go to college? Like, and why? Like, because you didn't ultimately take like that route, but you went to college, but you didn't like, why didn't you like get a job in that field that you went to school for?
Gosh, great question. So I was a big soccer player, loved playing soccer. So I got like a partial scholarship opportunity to go to school. And so with that, just kind of took some pre-med requisite classes, kind of started immersing myself in that field while getting my general education done at the University of Minnesota. Sorry. And yeah, man, it was once I got that first paycheck during that first week of the summer when I finally got the training to be that security technician, like ultimately, man, I was like, oh, this is going to help me pay for like post grad, you know what I mean? And kind of help facilitate me not having to maybe pay as much in student loans or having to file and get a FAFSA or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And so that was ultimately the goal. And then, dude, my first summer, like I lived in like 6 different states. And I met so many cool people. And I was like, I never would have otherwise had this experience had I not decided to sign up with this in the meantime. And just somewhere in between like April of 2010 and that October of 2010, I just felt like, no, I don't want to go back to school. Like I'm really happy with the position that I'm in. I get to travel. I get to meet literally anyone and everyone you could ever think of meeting. And I get to help them out by protecting their families and working with a really tight-knit team of technicians,
Yeah, I'm curious, maybe like any piece of advice that you'd give to someone, because I was in actually a very similar situation. People that listen to this podcast have heard this multiple times, but my dad was in the military, so very like traditional household. He's like, you got to go to college or whatever.
Oh, gotcha.
But I found myself in this situation where at the time, when I was, maybe first year of college or maybe halfway through the first year of college, there was like just different opportunities that kind of came up to where, I was doing some YouTube stuff and I was getting paid a little bit of money there. And, but it wasn't anything from what it sounds like with you where I was like, okay, I'm like making good paychecks doing this. So, would you give like anything that maybe you went through or pieces of advice for someone that might be in that situation? So let's say they are in college or they are in school and they know that like, they have that security, right, of being in school, but they also might have other stuff going on to where like it might take them on a different path. Any like advice that you would give to that person that's maybe like right in the middle? They're like, should I do this? Should I do that? Like kind of on the fence.
I actually ended up asking a lot of really well-off homeowners a lot of similar questions when I was in those first couple of summers, because I was just so amazed, like, dude, You got it. You got nice cars, you got whatever. And I'm just a college student and I'm not really sure. Like, what do you think I should do? Is this the best approach? And kind of the common denominator I got was cash is king. Like, as long as you're in a financial place where you have the ability to make a decision, instead of feeling like you're forced into a specific decision that otherwise you might not want to make. And so, dude, go for it, bro. Like, why not? If you have like something to fall back on, why are you just going to be cool falling back on it then? Why not take that chance? I mean, dude, you might fall down. Well, guess what, dude? Unlimited more chances left. I was fortunate enough to hit a home run on one of my first opportunities that I ever had. And that might not be normal. But dude, I could still be paying medical school debt. I could be a pharmacist working in a lab coat 9 to 5 at the same place every day. And I don't have to do that anymore because I did ultimately take a chance on myself in a different avenue of life. And it really worked out.
Yeah, man, that's so huge. And it's funny. There's this like theme that we've been like talking about really over the past like 3 or 4 weeks of all the episodes is just like this idea of what if it doesn't work, right? I think that's like the biggest thing on a lot of people's minds. Like anyone's listening to this, if they've made it this far, or been talking for 15 minutes is the point. It's like whoever's listening to this is either interested in remote closing or like just something other than their current situation. And I think no one that's has never taken a chance on themselves. Their first question is, what if it doesn't work? When like the real question should be, what's going to happen if it does? Right. Same thing with you. It's like, you would have never known, like, okay, you took this, opportunity at the security place that then brought you to your next opportunity, which then brought you to the net. Like there's so many different things that happen after that first, that first you taking a chance on yourself. And honestly, I think it's a big part of like the universe basically saying like, okay, this person is willing to take a chance on themselves. Now here's more opportunity that opens up. Because if you didn't do that, who knows where you'd be, right? You'd be in a good spot. Maybe, you'd hate being a pharmacist. But you just never really know. So, okay. So that's a timeline there. You go through school, go through the security company. So was there any like main, any main like takeaways or things that you learned at both of those companies before jumping into RCA that you'd maybe say like, that were just some takeaways for you that you've been able to implement to what you're doing now?
Gosh, that's a really good question. A lot of it is kind of structure based. Like I used to be a big fly by the seat of my pants, whatever happens, happens type of guy. And that's really what ultimately RCA has provided me is like a track to run on. And so with that being said, like a lot of like those individuals who I got to learn from on firsthand experience by working with them in such close proximity in their house and asking advice from them, it's kind of the same thing. Like as long as you structure your way to your goal, like everyone can wake up with 1,000 ideas of what they want to do, but unless you actually do something, you're just on a treadmill, man. And so with like, it just was a big writing things down, like getting a calendar. Like I thought that was kind of lame. I'm not going to lie. When I was a lot younger, I was like, I'm not writing anything down. I'm going to remember everything perfectly. Not a big deal. We're going to figure it out. You know what I mean? But dude, now every single day, my calendar from like 5 a.m. until I'm done with my last call is set. I know what I'm doing. I have expectations, and I know that I'm ultimately making progress in the right direction. And if you don't monitor your progress, how do you know if you're even making progress? And so getting to see firsthand all these well off individuals and how they structured their day out, like, well, why don't I just try that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, dude, that's so funny too, because I was in a very similar spot, because I had my own business before and, transitioning to working with Cole in 2021. He's really, really huge on like tracking everything. We have, a million spreadsheets for everything that we do internally within the company. And that, like when I first started doing that, I was very similar to you, like fly by the seat of my pants, like, I'll remember to do this, and this, but now it's like, I have personal spreadsheets for my own personal finance, for investments, for marketing metrics, for like, what I'm supposed to do this week, to do's, who need, like just so much tracking. And, it just comes back to that, the saying, I forgot where I heard it, but it's like what gets tracked gets done, right? Or what gets measured gets done,
well said. Absolutely.
So okay, so you go through, you're working with those companies and you find you find the ad that brings you into RCA. So I guess what was the I guess experience like? Talk about the conversations you had with Jake and John, and then ultimately like what mindset do you think it takes for someone to back to what you said is like instead of just saying, oh well, like I can't do this, you're like, well, I am going to now go out and get drive for Instacart so I guess just the overall mindset between the whole sales process of jumping in.
Gosh, so it all started with my boss, right? Old, like pre-World War I manly man, felt an overly abundant need to be in control of everything at all times. And so I showed up.
So you mean
to
like
work.
any boss out there in traditional?
Yeah. So what happened is I was installing a bunch of cameras on a rooftop, popped something in my back, doing something I maybe perhaps was not OSHA certified, right? Like, because that was the position I was in. I just had to make it work, whatever. So something happened, went down to my boss, let him know, hey, can't do this. So 3 weeks go by. That's over Christmas, right? So 3 weeks go by. I meet him first of the year at new job site. He's like, look, man, I need to sit down and talk with you for like a half an hour. I was like, about what? He's like, well, it's going to be a one-sided conversation. I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. So we go and sit down. He took like my work phone away from me. He took my work iPad away from me. He took the trailer keys away from me. He told me that only leaders deserve to have the things that he has provided for me. And that if I keep this up, that I'm not going to have a job anymore. Now, keep in mind, I'm his only employee. I am his account director. I'm putting in 50 hours a week for this guy. And he just still feels the need to put me in my place at all times. So I took his trailer keys off my keychain and I tossed them at him. And I said, if you ever say anything like that to me again, I'm walking out the door and you're screwed. And I'm just going to be honest. Like, I was just so over it. And so the amount of freaking motivation that I had to like, screw that guy. He has no idea who I am or what I'm about and how much work I put in for him. He clearly doesn't care. Like, maybe I should start surrounding myself with people who do care. And that leads me to your next question, man. Like, dude, I still talk to Jake. I talked with Jake yesterday. Like, I met with John on a Zoom while he's in Cabo, and he posted the text that I sent to him about how he changed my life on his Facebook. Like, dude, you are just immersed and surrounded fully by other people who want to see you succeed. And I had never known what that felt like until I joined RCA. And I know it sounds kind of corny and cliche. It's just how it is, man. Like, there are people out there that don't see the same dreams for yourself that you see for yourself. Well, then who cares? Like, why not take a chance on yourself if this is something that you want to do? And I just had a lot of external motivation of negativity on the other end. That was like, dude, I'm going to listen to sales calls this hour and a half drive to work. I'm going to listen to sales calls on the way home. I'm going to hop on mock calls for the next 6 hours so that I'm expediting the process, that I don't have to deal with this dude. But I was stuck working with them because I had to pay rent. You know what I mean? And so like, it was like a push came to shove, man. Like, I'm either going to continue being miserable working for this guy until I walk out the door and I'm screwed, or I'm going to actually jump out of the plane with my parachute on and see where I land.
Dude, that's so powerful. And I don't ever want this podcast to be like, me, saying, oh, like, we're so great and we do this, that, and the other thing. But I think there is something to say, because we don't talk about it a lot. I think people don't really understand like the infrastructure behind the Remote Closing Academy. And, we have at this point, I mean, we did our team-wide meeting this morning, and we have over 107 full-time employees at RCA, right? Or at closers.io. So it's like we have closers.io, we have our, B2B side, B2C. I'd say RCA specifically is probably 70 plus people, right? And in saying that, it's like we have so much people on the back end that are rooting for the people in these programs, right? I think there's like 12 or 13 full-time success coaches, right? We have, a sales team
Yeah.
internally, we have marketing, we have, the recruiting team, which literally all they do all day long is talk to our business owner clients and figuring out, okay, we need this amount of setters, this amount of closers, who in RCA is going to be the best perfect fit for that? What are they looking for? Right. So, back to what you said, and obviously Jake and John, both studs. I've known John for probably 4 or 5 years at this point, and, just a super, super great guy. And, yeah, I just want everyone to kind of listen to that part that Corbin just mentioned about, this isn't just something where, and the cool part about this entire thing, it's not something where, we're going to have a conversation with you and it's like, all right, on to the next one. Right. It's like, I haven't met one of like John, like someone that has come to the program through John or really any of the closers that don't still have like a great relationship with people that come through, because, there's people like you where, you come in, you put a ton of work into it, and you see the benefits on the other side. And John could be like, hey, like I helped this guy jump into this industry and now look where he is, and it's super cool to be able to share. So, so appreciate the, all that to say, appreciate the kind words, and, ultimately you came in and put in the work. So let's talk about so you jump in, John brings you in. What was like your immediate, like first impressions or experience within RCA?
Overwhelming positivity. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like an abundance of overwhelming positivity. Because what happens, dude, is like, okay, I was in a unique situation to like, I had to start rebuilding my credit not that long ago, a couple of years ago. So I wasn't in a spot financially. Like I thought, like $200. And John's like, dude, this is way more than a couple $100. I was like, I know. And that it scares me because I want to do it still, knowing fully what the repercussions are. Right. And so as soon as you sign up, like he got me on the call with Kurt, and Kurt got me approved, got everything taken care of. And then the next day it's like, hey, here's your client success manager. Here are the things that you have set goals for yourself. This is what needs to happen in this timeline for you to reach those goals. And here are all the avenues that you have at your disposal within RCA to help. Right. And so then what happens is you post, you're like, oh, hey, first day here. Like, I'm ready to roll up my sleeves. Let's go. This is going to be awesome. I'm pumped. Like, you're approved. Everyone's just so excited, over the top. And then everyone starts liking your post. Oh, dude, I'm new too. Where are you from? Oh, that's sweet. I live real close. Hey, man, you want to get on a mock call? Like, it just is nonstop. Like, what are you doing? What are you working on? Hey, dude, this call was amazing. Oh, hey, let's go review this call together with this coach because he specializes in issues that you're having. And every single day you get in here, you make at least 5 new friends. You follow their progress. They follow yours. I still talk to so many people in RCA. I still get on mock calls at 8 in the morning because my first call's at 9. Guess what? It's nice to have some friendly practice with no pressure before your day starts. Like, I'm still in here every day, and I've been out here for 2 months. Like, I could not be more appreciative of it. And it just like paying it forward. And like the people I've seen going through their struggles on RCA and me being able to be put in a position to help them and vice versa, like how I was able to leverage some of the experts who I had the pleasure of mock calling with my first 5. It's like, hey, can you work with me a little bit? I'm not very good at this yet. Dude, no one's going to tell you no. Like, you have the ability to work literally at your own pace and the flexibility that works for you. And I was just in a unique situation where I was sick of the crap that was going on. So I told Ty Martin, my coach, and if anyone ever has him, you have to make fun of his high top that he had. It looked way too cool. But anyways, I digress. He helped me get to such a high level by really focusing on what I told him that I wanted to focus on. And forever grateful, man. Forever grateful. I'm inviting that guy to my wedding. We've already talked about it. Like, that's where I'm at with him since I've started with RCA. And so, like, dude, anything that you need from anyone, I have never been ghosted. I have never been ignored. I have always been put in a position to make progress towards the goal that I ultimately set for myself. And just as more people join, everyone just keeps paying it forward, man. They got something really special over there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think The seal of approval definitely is the invitation of the wedding. I mean that
Oh
where
yeah.
like what other all the other stuff's great. Yeah, you got placed, whatever. But Ty's coming to the wedding. That is it.
Yeah. He was
It's
playing
like,
hard to get for the longest time, dude. I couldn't get his number. I couldn't get him to add me on Facebook. And one of my buddies in RCA is like, dude, just call him out in your next meeting. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that. And he loved it. He loved that I gave him that pushback. I got his number, friends with him on Facebook. He's getting invited to my wedding, all because in the last 4 months, he has literally changed my life.
boom, dude, I love that.
Boom.
So let's so I want to dive a little bit into that though. So it just internally, obviously you come in, those are your first impressions, but I guess give me like a timeline of like how things happen. So you jump in, like when did you start in the content? When did you start doing mock calls? When did you get play? Like we'll start there and then we can kind of
Yeah,
add on to it.
absolutely. So January 3rd, first day, boom. In, met with Ty, explained to him like, hey man, I got a goal board. My goal board's over there. And on the goal board, it says that I would like to be hired in a sales role in the next 60 days. And so I was like, okay, like, yeah, 60 days sounds good. And Ty's like, okay, well, listen, man, you don't have that much experience. I'm just gonna be totally frank with you. These are these things that you need to go through in the course. These are the amount of calls that you need to do. And these are what I want you to focus on during the calls. And so it's everything from the very beginning, like intro to RCA. What is setting an appointment? How do you set an appointment? What are all the different ways that you can creatively use flexibility and word patterns on a call, but structure it in a way that is ultimately going to set you up for success? And so you start to really go through the course, and every week you bring back your best call to Ty. And real quick, you learn that, man, your best call is not that great. And so what happens from there is you really get to start focusing on the things that you're failing at. And for me personally, man, I'm a caring guy. I'm a nice guy. I might be way too nice. And so asking really difficult questions pertaining to financial situations, like, oh man, like that must really suck. That just didn't feel good or natural to talk about. Ty's like, look, man, every other part of your call is great, but you can't do this. I can't move you forward. And so he really held me accountable week in and week out. And it took me quite some time to really be able to get into the pain to a comfortable level and get people to open up to me. It's just not something that's super easy. It might come naturally to others, but to me, it just didn't. And so for me personally, like that was the area of focus that I had to look at the most. And so the way that he structured it was, look, man, there's no adequate replacement for volume. I need you to do 25 mock calls this week. And I'm like, okay. So I went back to the calendar thing. It's like, okay, well, I'm waking up at 5 o'clock workout, 6 o'clock leave for work, 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock work, get home at 5:45. All right, cool. Fiance, can you please make me some pasta? I'm gonna go shower. Mock calls at 6, mock calls at 7, 8, 9, 10. Saturday, Sunday, like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. I had my Calendly set up. I'd post it in the chat. People I'd make friends with would join. We'd do mock calls. I'd have some lunch. I'd work on course content, how to set, how to close, fundamentals, objection overcome, framing, like every single important nuance of the call. I just fully dove in so head first. It's not even funny.
What do you, and I think I know the answer to this, but I want other people to hear.
Yeah.
What kind of gave you, because even just hearing you speak, just from the very beginning, like there is a confidence and a conviction and like just a cadence that you speak that is just it's rooted in confidence, right? So what parts of like maybe your past or what was happening in that situation in January when you first joined, like what made you so like on fire to be like, I'm gonna make this work, I need this work, I don't care if I'm tired, I'm gonna sleep sleep a couple hours a night? Like what kept you going through that whole process?
You're gonna make me really open up, aren't you, Aaron? Okay. Well, I understand. Look, man, I haven't always been the best person when it comes to finances, right? Like sometimes you used to go to the casino as a kid because in Minnesota it's 18, so it's the coolest thing to do. So sometimes you want to go to the casino. Sometimes You want to go out to eat. Sometimes you want to do other things and you're just not making the money that is necessary to be able to do those things. I absolutely love my girlfriend. We've been together a little over 5 years and I still don't have a wedding ring. And that is my ultimate motivation is I'm like ready to get married. I'm super excited about it. And every waking day that goes by that I can't propose kind of sucks. All my friends are married. All my friends have kids. And it's starting to be like, I'm old enough and at a point in my life to where like, I've ultimately made these life-changing decisions to get me to this point. And what is keeping me motivated is like who I have behind me, man. Like having an external source of motivation like that, whether it's good or bad. And dude, guess what? I'm never going back to work for that old boss ever again. I never, ever, ever. I've wanted to call him so many times just to tell him how awesome I'm doing, but I won't. I refuse.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, so it's someone telling you what's best for you, otherwise not knowing anything about you. And then someone that just has undying faith and believes in you wholeheartedly and is with you every step of the way. And so I'm fortunate enough to be in a position to have the best of both. I have a chip on my shoulder from people talking crap. And I have the love of my life who's literally with me every step of the way and would have helped me pay for this ultimately if that's what it came down to.
Because I think a lot of people are in a very similar situation where they have that person that might be, they might have, well, actually, I'll say it and then give me an answer. But like,
yeah.
I think a lot of people, they might be in a very similar situation where, they have one person on one side, whether it's like, maybe it is their family or kind of like you said, like the guy, the boss or whatever was just always telling you like, that's a scam. That's like, you're never going to see success. Like you have that. And then it kind of sucks to say, but a lot of people don't have the person on the other end that's like, you can do this. I have faith in you. I believe in you. So what, like, what would you maybe say to someone that has that person that's nagging on them saying, this is a scam. It's never going to work. You can't make money online. Like, what would you maybe say to them and encourage them? Like, this is possible. Like you can do it.
I mean, I don't know. It just really depends on like what kind of person you are. Like, dude, I'm gonna be completely honest. As nice as I can be, sometimes it is nice to get revenge. Like if you're a big sports guy or a big sports girl, like, don't you just have that rival team that it doesn't matter how bad of a day you're having. When you face them, you want to beat the crap out of them. They are your rivals. It just makes you feel good. So if what drives you is that chip on your shoulder that other people don't believe in you, like, dude, that's how Navy SEALs get through buds. Their family, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, like whatever. They're just telling them they can't do it. Dude, just prove them wrong. Just prove them all wrong. And if that doesn't feel good to you, man, like, what are your goals? Like, what do you actually want to do? Do you want to wake up every day and think that you can do something? Do you want to wake up dreaming of being able to travel wherever you want? Go to a sporting event, buy season tickets, get a wedding ring like I'm trying to get, man. Whatever it may be, you just got to find something that makes it worth your while. And so for me, it's worth my while to prove it to the people that don't think I can do it, because that feels really freaking good. And by the time you've learned enough and have grown enough to get to that point to where you can adamantly say, like, I have made it, you don't even feel the need to rub it in their face. You just feel bad for them because they just had such a lack of faith in you. It's really just a projection of themselves. They just have a lack of faith in themselves. So if you're going to let other people determine what you believe in, you just got to get over that. You have to do something. And something has to motivate you. You just have to be willing to open up about it and admit that, hey, this is what motivates me. Dude, I used to be a consequential motivated type of person. Like, oh, I better do my homework or I'm going to get grounded. It's the only reason I ever did it. Yeah. And as you get older, you start to replace the consequential motivation with external and internal motivation. And so, like, if it's one person that's rubbing you the wrong way, if there's a bully, if there's a family member, if you're friends, who cares? Go find new ones. I'm 32 and I have some of the closest and best friends ever. And you want to know why? I met them in RCA. They live in Boston. They live in Western Washington. My buddies, they'd be mad if I didn't shout them out. And Jordan and Kyle, the homies, man. They would stay up with me until midnight reviewing my calls, making sure that I didn't have to go back and wear my hard hat and safety glasses the next day. I didn't have to go dig trenches. I didn't have to go pull cable. We all started posting pictures of ourselves in a group chat wearing hard hats. Like, this is why we're an RCA. I don't look good in a hard hat, man. I just don't.
I don't think anyone does.
Exactly.
I don't think I've ever seen one person in a hard hat.
Oh no, it's not.
That
it's not
guy looks good over there. Oh man, dude, that I think all that is so spot on, and I think just what you said is like, you had one thing that motivated you, and I think every single person is going to have the same thing, that they need to just figure out like overall like what do they want to do. There's a quote from a book that I never forget, and I give this piece of advice to a lot of people is, if you are not in the position where you want to be, there's just two things that could go wrong. It's either number one, you don't know what you want, or you don't know how to get it, right? Because if you have both those things and, not knowing what you want, right, is the ultimate goal behind what you're trying to get to, and not knowing how to get there is just, the action steps to take to get to that point, right? Because you can come into RCA and, that gives you what you need to do. But if you don't know where you're going, you don't have an ultimate goal, you don't have a motivation and a reason why you're doing it, sometimes you won't even get out of bed. Sometimes you don't, you won't actually get to that end point. So I think back to what you said, I think it's super important to figure out what motivates someone internally and get them to take action on that. So from that point, right, you come in RCA, you're going through all the training. I guess, what was the time frame from starting into, I guess, just let's jump into talking about, like, did you enter the pipeline? Did you do self-sourcing? Like, how did you find the gig?
I got really lucky, dude. I got so freaking lucky. So I put in the work. I got like 120-ish hours, like 50-60% of the course room material, like 50 mock calls in the first month. And so it took me exactly 28 days to get into the pipeline. I had my pipeline manager with Crystal Warrington. Hilariously enough, Aaron, the reference that I made when she asked me when I did something at work that maybe wasn't expected of me, but I did anyways to make an impact. And I talked about how I did it in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, guess where she's from? Charlotte, North Carolina. So it turned out I got like an A on my pipeline interview. I just happened to get really lucky there, right? And so, sorry, that went a little too far.
No. So before you even, because we'll dive more into it, but back to what you said of like luck. I think it's a very it's a topic that a lot of people will say is like, I think anyone that says like that, let's say someone on the outside, they look at you and they say, oh, that dude just got lucky. They don't see all of the hours that you put in to put yourself to even be lucky. Right.
They should see that week 3 call of Ty and I'm like literally crying on the call. So I'm like, dude, I can't get into the pain. My boss sucks. I have no money because I'm paying for this. I am eating pasta and like tuna fish sandwiches and a banana every day. Like, I'm fasting, not on purpose, because I have to make this work. I'm on calls a minimum of 4 hours, weekends too. So like, maybe I created my own luck, but I'm self-aware enough to understand that maybe this is a product of the hard work I put in, and maybe I did get lucky. But either way, I'm confident in the work that I put in to put myself in a position to even maybe get lucky.
There you go. That's exactly the point that I was going to make. So, so you have the pipeline review, and then so what happens after that?
So I didn't mean to totally skip a step. So what happens is once you provide a call to your CSM, they're like, we did it. Let's go. This is amazing. You finally have hit, you covered all the bases. All the boxes are checked. You're good to go. So you set up a pipeline interview, and that just kind of determines what space in high ticket closing that you'd like to be in. So maybe real estate is just your thing. Maybe finances is just your thing. Maybe you're a big tech person. I fortunately am in the info product space, right? And so the pipeline manager asks you a bunch of questions pertaining to even further future pace what your goals are going forward. It's like, well, what types of companies are you looking to get in with? And from there, you get reached out to through other individuals that are associated with the pipeline that help facilitate the hirings of someone from RCA with a company. And so they're with you every step of the way. They check in on you. You make sure that like your background's all good, your camera's good, just kind of your whole setup, how you carry yourself, and that just determines a lot going forward. And so because of those things, I was able to display throughout that 30-minute interview. My pipeline grade was relatively good. It allowed me to be reached out to on LinkedIn. A big part of it is creating your social profiles. I never really had a social imprint, never really had a Facebook, no Snapchat, no Instagram. I told you, man, like fly by the seat of my pants. Like I didn't even take pictures. I didn't bring my phone. Like I would be that one dude at the game that just I would be in the moment. I just never did. You know what I mean? And so from there, you get contacted by a whole bunch of people that are looking for people just like you based on the skills that you demonstrated to your pipeline manager. And kind of from there, you have the ability to reach out to anyone and everyone that you want. People will reach out to you. Cole and their team even give you like a whole freaking list of like hundreds of contacts and groups to join. And it's impossible to not figure it out. You know what I mean? Like just how much structure there is around the pipeline and everything post you getting to that level that you need to get to. It's awesome, man. The way that they help facilitate everything from like the onboarding process to the interview process to setting up schedule, like it's like a done for you. Like here, let me just get you this job that you just worked so hard to get.
Awesome, man. Outside of that, so like what happens next? So you bought or you I was gonna say you bombed the interview, but like in a good way.
I
like,
did. Dang,
bomb,
I
you
thought
hit,
I
you
did
hit
good.
it like a bomb, you exploded, it was great. So you did great on the interview. I guess let's talk about like we don't have to go into the specifics of like the name of the company or opportunity, but I guess what was the day that you got officially hired onto that team?
March 3rd, baby.
March 3rd. Okay, so you've been there about a month, or I guess, yeah, a month, 2 months. Yeah. So what's been the experiences? Give us some of the good, bad, ugly.
Oh man. So none of it is ugly except for how new I am to this space. So again, ties kind of back into the luck aspect of things. I understand that this is fortunate and I am in a very unique position relative to others in RCA, but just so everybody knows, it's still possible. I got a crazy position and I don't mean to be braggadocious about it. It just, fortunately for me, the talent acquisition manager for Gexa, his name is Amy Frost. Amy Frost works with Nick Fisher, and Nick Fisher is really good friends with Cole Gordon. And so they found my profile on LinkedIn that I'd created through my coach Ty and the pipeline managers helping me get those built up. And she reached out and said, "Hey, look, do you know of anyone in RCA that would be looking for a setter or a closer position?" And I was like, you sneaky. Hey, I'm someone that's looking for that position. And that was like
person.
that was like a reach out tactic. And so from there, man, like interview process a week from there, where you kind of do like, what have you done? What are you looking to do? How's RCA? What's your experience like? How do you carry yourself? Kind of your traditional interview. From there, about 4 or 5 days later, I had a panel interview with their operations manager, the founder, Amy, and the head of all of their sales teams, and had like an hour-long interview. A lot of tough questions that the pipeline did not prepare me for. It's a good thing I could handle my own. And so anyways, get to an interview, and 3 minutes later, I get a text. "Hey, can I call you?" I'm like, oh, yeah, you can. Absolutely.
Who was that? Who was calling?
That was Amy.
Okay.
She said, "We want nothing more than to extend you the offer letter right now." And dude, kid in the candy store, like I just scored a goal in the World Cup. I put my shirt over my head and did the airplane all around. Man, you have no idea, bro. You have no idea, because there's a base pay. So I'm not strictly commissions. And the base pay put me in a position to be comfortable and not stressed, feeling like I have to perform no matter what. And the company that I got hired onto, man, is a Gexa, Agexa. And so what they do is very similar style to what they do in RCA, which has fundamentally set me up to succeed a lot quicker right out the gate. And so the position I was given was a director of enrollment, and I do triage calls and closing calls, but I'm also a part of a brand new brand launch. So we're taking a product similar to RCA, but for recruiters in the info product space and building it from the ground up. So a Gexa is a very small, tight-knit team of like the coolest, most talented, most kind-hearted people I've ever had the pleasure of working with in my entire life. And so we have like the marketing master, Steven, and then Amy talent acquisition, and Nick is like overseeing all of it. And so what happens is I'm now being allocated in this team to learning how to launch a brand. So I'm doing cold outreach efforts. I'm helping with the marketing director establish what the avatar of our market looks like and how we're able to get them engaged with our content. I'm learning how like ad spends and click funnels and what ROAS means. You know what I mean? Like I otherwise had no clue what any of that meant. But dude, they took me under their wing because of me being vetted through the entire RCA process. The owner of my company just happenstance is really good friends with Corbin. So he's like, well, hey, we're not hiring you because of where you're at. We're hiring you because we believe in where you can get to. You know what I mean? And so now I'm being, you know, I might not be the strongest performer on this team that we have over here, but man, it is so motivating that everybody is so freaking talented at what they do. It's like embarrassing if I didn't perform. And so it's just like that next level. Like RCA prepares you to be able to challenge yourself going forward. RCA provides you the structure and the guidelines as long as you're willing to work at it to get where you want to be. It's the long game, man. Like I just got here and I could not be more excited what the next 10 years of my life look like. And I can't tell you I've ever looked forward to the next 10 years of my life the way that I do now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Dude, most people dread the next 10 years of their life because they're like, I'm in this position where I just like hate waking up every single morning, and they're just like, I just want this to be over with. I don't want to go to this job every single day. And I want to just touch on what you said about, you know, you having the motivation and you know, being now a part of a team that is giving you the motivation to want to look forward. Because, and I want everyone to understand this that's listening, is this company that Corbin's talking about is not just this company. It's most companies that are out there in the high ticket space, because there's so much opportunity in this, you know, in this internet world that, you know, unless you're plugged in, you don't really, like most people, I feel it's like just an untapped, like kind of underground society of like, we know if we're in the online space, we know how much opportunity it is. And the cool thing that I'm stoked for you about, and really anybody that is able to plug in with a company like, you know, the one you're talking about, is all these companies are so excited to grow. They have the resources, they have the knowledge to do so. And it gives anyone that joins the opportunity to grow inside the company. Right. So, you know, you know, it's a relatively smaller, you know, company that you're working with now, but from what it sounds like, there's a lot of really, you know, people, like there's a lot of the big goals, right? They're looking to scale. And what that does is for, you know, for you, is like, it gives you like, you're starting at the ground floor, right? And as you start to, you know, as you start to grow and as they start to look more people, who do you think they're going to look for their executive team, or for, you know, you know, the main freaking head honcho setter, closer, manager, you know? So I, you know, hopefully you got anyone that's listening can hear the excitement, but I just, dude, I'm so stoked for you. I think like just hearing you talk about it and, you know, what we've gone back and forth so far, dude, I think you're going to crush it. I mean, so far, more than you have.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And yeah, it has been just a life-changing experience overall. And there's just something to be said. Like if you show up to batting practice and your whole team is just stroking home runs 500 feet and you can barely hit a ground ball out of the infield, like normally you'd feel kind of bad on yourself. Dude, my whole team is just working with me every single day because they believe in me as much as I believe in myself. And pretty soon, dude, I'm going to be smacking 500 feet home runs just as well as they are. I just need to understand that it takes time, man. Like, I should have made this decision 10 years ago. RCA might not have been around 10 years ago, But if it was, dude, like I wish I would have joined. Like ultimately, it has facilitated my future being so bright and so just awesome to think about relative to what I used to think about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
man. That's so massive. So just to give like anyone that's listening on here, kind of an idea of just the opportunity. So, obviously you've been with the company for a month. What is like the like minimum KPIs that you'd hit, or like the like income potential of the position that you're in? If we can talk on that real quick.
Yeah. So it was, I believe, a 70K base pay with 5 to 8% sliding commissions, meaning I believe it was week over week. So if I sold two on a Monday, like 5 and 5.5% respectively. If I sold three on a Tuesday, then I get 6.5%. Going later into the week and finally get to 8%. The offer that I'm on has a multitude of price points, kind of dependent on the skill set of the client who's on the other side of the phone. With that being said, it's a B2B and B2C. So the B2B is 20K. I'm not super great at math, right? But it's like 1,800, 1,600 bucks for that one. And I am on like 15 to 18 calls a day.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. So this is not normal, Aaron. Like I am a part of a brand launch. There are no calls to reference at all. There's only a couple of students enrolled in the program. We're doing split A/B testing from a marketing perspective to determine what VSLs and what ClickFunnels strategies and what copy is ultimately working the best. And we have weekly meetings to refine our approaches across all avenues: LinkedIn, Facebook, Google search, whatever, you name it. And so we're trying to establish the structure to where we can tell what the KPIs should look like. We are building something from the ground up in every single aspect, right? And so I'm just in a unique position in a sense of like, I don't really have KPIs. I don't have a measuring stick. I don't have anyone like you or Cole or Ty or whoever. I'm like, hey man, can I just listen to your call so I can help get better? Like, dude, I'm the guinea pig. I'm taking the triage calls. I'm doing cold outreach. I'm doing the set, like the closing calls. And now David D. Ray actually joined our team last week and is working with me every single Monday for the foreseeable future until I'm getting better. And so like, with that being said, I hope that I get to at least 20% close. And that's what I thought I was going to get to right away. But look, man, I've been on the phone with like 200 people in the last 4 weeks. I've only had closed maybe 2. You know what I mean? But I've been setting so many people, and I can just tell with every single call review, like, dude, I'm going to get this at some point in time. And I have nothing but support from the rest of my team.
Yeah, man. And the other thing on top of that too is, and we talk about this a lot as well, is you were literally getting paid like, and dude, like 70K base, like that's, I mean, you're literally getting basically what most people come out of college as their first job from, doing something for 4 months,
Yeah,
like
it's
that's
not even a
unheard
sales. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's not even really like a sales position. It is, but dude, like I get to be a part of all of the internal meetings. They've tried to launch like 20 brands in the last 3 years. You know what I mean? So they have so much to go off of information wise to set themselves in a place to succeed right off the rip. And so now I'm being brought under the wing of the publishing partner, Sam Queen. He's reviewing my calls. That would be like having Cole Gordon literally hang out with you for an hour every week just to review your calls. Like I have been given that opportunity as a byproduct of investing in myself and jumping on the RCA bandwagon, man. And I ultimately could not be more thankful, could not be more appreciative, try to pay it forward in the community as much as I can, and made better friends there than I had the last 31 years of my life. And if that's not life-changing, like, dude, I don't know what is, man.
Yeah, I can relate with that so much. Like I talk to a lot of people in when we go to some of these events, it's like I same thing with me. I have more friends online that I've met like on Zoom than in person, right? Because a lot of times like in person friends, depending on like the community that you're from or whatever, like it only took a couple times from someone saying like my idea was silly for me to be like, okay, like I can't have you in my life. Like I want to position myself with the people that like know that this stuff is possible, you know? So
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time, and we're coming up on time here. So what would you say to someone that is maybe just in a similar situation that you were, right? One of the first things, I don't even think it was on the recording, but you said that you looked at every salesperson as kind of a sleazy,
Oh
kind of
yeah.
negative type person. So what would you
Yeah.
say to someone that's in that same mindset, that's like kind of open-minded about remote closing, but they're like,
Mm.
oh, I would never do sales. That's gross. Like, what would you say to them to get past that limiting belief?
Be the difference, dude. Be the difference. I had a sales rep tell the sweetest old lady I've ever met in my life that her smoke detector that she just saw me install in her ceiling with 2 drywall screws and click it into place was going to turn into a fire extinguisher and spray the foam inside to put out fires in her house, and had her pay thousands of dollars for them. I got relocated offices because I jeopardized the sale because I told her that that was false. Right. So that was my initial, I'm 20 years old.
Got it.
I'm here at Vivint doing my security thing. That was my first impression of a bad sales rep. I'm gonna be honest, man, that carried some serious weight over the next foreseeable future. Because all you do is focus on that. You're like, oh, this guy got this person to sign and they have no idea what they're paying. Or this person lied about the product. Or whatever the case may be. And so it just put such a bad taste in my mouth because I thought it was high pressure. I thought you had to force the money out of them. I thought like overcoming objections was the scariest thing on the planet. And if you're nope, I'm just like, all right, cool, thank you. Have a good day. Like I used to be like that. I
Mm-hmm.
used to be like that. I would cower in fear if you gave me an objection because I would just want to make it through the day with my nice, kind smile. And you and I are friends. We're good to go. Everything's fine. And just, man, listening to Cole's videos and seeing how proven people in the space carry themselves is so far different than what I experienced in the door to door sales side of things. And dude, if I'm sick of there being shady sales reps, then guess what, man? Then I don't have to be a shady sales rep. Just because I've seen it done by other people does not mean that's the best way to go. And it's clearly not because I don't see any of their faces on sales in any of my programs anymore. I don't communicate with them anymore. And they all went their own way and they're doing something different because they weren't doing it the right way. And it feels so good knowing that what I'm doing is actually making a difference for someone and getting to replicate that feeling each and every single day and knowing that I'm doing it from a place of good faith and I don't have to lie about something to get someone to hand me a bunch of money. Like that's kind of what I thought this was at first. I could not be farther from the truth. Literally couldn't. This is I like words can't even describe, man. Like this is just not what I thought that it was. And I'm so happy and thankful for that.
Amazing. So literally on that same note, what would you say to somebody that, okay, we got them past that limiting belief. Okay, sales,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's not the worst thing ever. What would you say to someone that's on the fence? They're listening to this and they have talked to someone on the team and they're just like, they're on the fence. They're skeptical. They've tried a bunch of ways to make money online before. What would you say to someone to get them off that fence of like, dude, just like jump into RCA. You won't regret
Water's fine. Water's nice. Just dive right in. No, I mean, it's one thing if you felt like you were making this decision on your own. And that's kind of how I felt. It's like, well, crap, if I fail, that's just me. Dude, they are your parachute when you jump out of the plane. Like they are your flotation device in the ocean. They are everything that you could ever think of needing to facilitating you making this come to fruition for you, man. Like it's scary. It is not easy, especially the first time. But guess what, man? I am like 1 month away from getting my wedding ring that I want, all as a byproduct of investing myself in RCA. And guess what I'd be doing right now? I'd probably be sitting here because I would have left work already. I'd be playing video games. I'd have no money. I'd have no wedding ring. Pretty soon I might not even be in a relationship. You know what I mean? So like the trickle down effect of you sitting on that nice fence that you're sitting on is not helping. It's only going to help if you actually make a decision. And the scariest decisions, man, they're the best ones to make.
Mm. Dude, we could literally just end it on that, but we do have one last thing to end on here. That was super solid. I think if someone's on the fence
Thank
and they
you.
don't dive in after that, then there's something wrong. So
Right.
before you jump off here, again, appreciate the time you spent. I'm gonna do just a quick outro. I want you to think of just one like golden nugget, like master tip or trick that you would give to someone that has listened all the way to the end here. I'll give you like 30 seconds. I'll do this outro and then we'll come back to you and I'll get that from you. So if you've already listened up to this point, I mean, we're basically an hour in at this point. So, obviously Corbin's been able to give us a lot of really good information here. But you're probably interested at least somewhat about appointment setting, about remote closing, about the Remote Closing Academy. So what I want you to do is down in the description on YouTube or in the show notes on the podcast app, right? There's going to be a link to a video. It's going to be a full-on just training on exactly what remote closing is, what appointment setting is, and how you can take some of the information in that training to implement as soon as tomorrow within literally 24 hours and implement and, potentially see some of the successes that Corbin has. But of course, at the end of that video, there is a little bit more of an opportunity to work closer with us. If you want to go through the same process that Corbin did to really hold your hand through the whole thing, ensure your success within the program, obviously there's room to do that at the end. But again, you can just watch the video, take notes, and be in a pretty good spot after you do watch out the video. My business partner, Cole, put a ton of time into it to make sure that it was a valuable training so that you can learn a ton from. So down in the description, as well as, in the podcast app, somewhere in the show notes, you can click a link. But dude, hopefully gave you enough time. What you got for your takeaway?
Don't be afraid to hang up on someone if they're rude, man. I was so scared of it, and I got to talk to Jake Ferry, and Jake showed me a call. And on that call, the guy got on and said, look, how much does this cost? What does this look like for me? What do you do? What services do you offer? And I need to know this in 5 minutes. And I got to see Jake sit there in complete silence for like 15 seconds. He's like, are you okay? And let me tell you how awesome that feels to do that one time. So if you think getting into sales is people yelling at you on the phone and you can't hang up, guess what, man? Just hang up. There are tons of people who are going to call you and want to talk to you and want to give you their business ultimately because they're going to like you. They're going to like what you have to say and how you carry yourself. And so if that one person on the phone, whether it's a Karen, whether it's a Steve, it doesn't matter. If they're going to give you a hard time and you think that it is your job to close everybody, newsflash, man, just click the end button. That's all you got to do. I was so scared of that, and I did that for the first time a week ago. And guess what? I can't wait to do it again. I never thought that it would excite me to be able to hang up the phone on a rude person. And that's the nugget of information I got for you.
Dude, probably the best one we've had up to this point. Usually it's very like methodical mindset. It's like, just don't be afraid to hang up with people. So we'll dude, I just wanted to say thank you so much for spending the hour with us. I think a lot of people that listen to this, it's going to get into the right hands, and people will be able to pull a lot of stuff from this and get them off the fence that we talked about. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for on this episode of the podcast. If you have any questions, obviously down below in the description, or not description, but in the comments, leave that there. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one. Click the link down in the description, in the show notes, in the little description there to check out the video. And this is Aaron from the Remote Closing Academy podcast. We'll see you guys in the next one. Talk soon. Peace. Woo! All right, we are out, dude. One of my favorites.